Hello, this is Algebra 1, topic 2-4, on solving equations with variables on both sides. So we're going to solve these equations and check our answers. Well, we have a few steps to solve these. Our first step is that we need to simplify both sides. Okay, we reviewed how to do that on 2-3. Our second step is get the variable on one side. And then our third step is to solve it like a two-step equation. Okay, so just some notes. Let's go ahead and work on these. So number one, 6x minus 3 is already simple. 2k plus 13, already simple. We don't need to simplify both sides. So next we want to get our variables on one side. Well, I'm going to subtract 2k. The reason being that 2k is smaller, and that will give me a positive value for k over here. So that gives me 4k minus 3 equals 13, because those canceled. And now, this is just a two-step equation from topic 2-2. So I need to get what's not a variable onto the other side. Add 3. And we get that 4k equals 16. And now when we divide both sides by 4, we get that k equals 4. Now, these are slightly more complicated to check because we have to actually run two separate things through our calculator to check them. First, we're going to run the left-hand side of 6 times 4 minus 3. That gives us 21. And then we have to run the left side. 2 times 4 plus 13. That also equals 21. These are the same, so number 1 checks out, and our answer is 4. Taking a look at problem number 2. Well, these are already as simple as they need to be. So, I'm going to either subtract 9m or 3m. The 3m is smaller, so I'm going to subtract it first. 9 minus 3 gives me 6m plus 7 equals negative 5. Don't forget to drop that minus sign. Now we need to move the 7 over. And we get that 6m equals negative 5 minus 7 is negative 12. And then divide both sides by 6, and we get that m equals negative 2. So, first we moved our variable to one side. We moved our constants to the other side, just like we would in a two-step equation. And then we divide by the number in front of the letter, just like we would in a one-step equation. So 9 times negative 2 plus 7. 3 times negative 2 minus 5. And you'll notice that both of these give me negative 11. Because they both give me negative 11, this answer checks. Now for example number 3. Don't let these fractions scare you. These fractions happen to have the same denominator. But I, for one, don't like fractions. And so I'm going to give you a trick to help you get rid of all your fractions, and so you're just dealing with whole numbers. If I multiply this fraction by 5, that denominator will go away. If I multiply this fraction by 5, that denominator will go away. However, I can't just pick and choose what to multiply by on each individual single thing. I have to multiply everything. And yes, that means everything by 5, because what I do to one side, I must do to the other. And so now when I do this, 5 times 2/5 is 2n, minus 5 times 9 is 45. And now 7 times 5 is 35, minus 3/5 times 5 is 3n. Now this looks much more user-friendly. I've got some larger numbers, but this is a little bit nicer for me to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and work it. I don't like having negative n's, so I'm going to add 3n to both sides. Now you may notice that I've always been adding on the right-hand side. That just happens to be the fact. If you would prefer, you could always just decide, I'm going to get rid of the variables on the right-hand side, and that would be okay. You could also choose to do it differently. You could have chosen to, instead of adding 3n, subtract 2n, because the 2 is smaller than the 3, and you would still eventually get the same answer. I'm doing it this way purely because this is the method that I prefer, is I like ending up with positive n's. So plus 3n on both sides leaves me with 5n minus 45 equals 35. I now add 45 to both sides, and I get that 5n equals 80. This is now down to a one-step equation. When I divide by 5, n equals 16. Now we go to check, and because I want to make sure that I didn't make any errors, I'm going to go back to my originals. That would be 2/5 times 16 minus 9. 2 over 5 times 16 minus 9 gives me a negative 2.6. And now 7 minus 3/5 times 16 is also a negative 2.6. So because these are both the same, my answer checks out. Moving on to example number 4. Again, these are already simple for me. I don't need to worry about that. So I'm going to go ahead and move everything to one side. Before, I've always been taking the one on the right and moving it left. Well, this time I'm going to choose to move the one on the left and make it go right. Again, this is purely preference. However, it will give me a positive p, because this leaves me with 8. 4 plus 2 give me 6p minus 10. Now I've got a two-step equation. I add 10 to both sides, and I get that 18 equals 6p. One-step equation. I divide both sides by 6, and I get that p equals 3. Now time to check. 8 minus 2 times 3 equals 2. And 4 times 3 minus 10 also equals 2. And so this answer also checks. Let's go and have a look at the next page. Here's where we have to actually start simplifying. The reason being that the left side is quite simple, but the right side is not. I have 3 terms, and I only want 2 terms. So, this 7c and this minus 2c I know will combine to give me 5c minus 14, and this still equals my 8c plus 1. I combined terms over here. I didn't need to over here. Now I go ahead and work this out. 5 is smaller than 8, so I'm going to subtract 5c from both sides. That gives me 3c plus 1 equals a negative 14. When I subtract 1, I get that 3c equals a negative 15. And I've run out of room, so I'm just going to go ahead and copy this over here. And continue working. I've got one more step. That would be to divide this 3 so that c equals a negative 5. Now we go about checking this. 8 times negative 5 plus 1 is a negative 39. And then over here, 7 times negative 5 minus 14 minus 2 times a negative 5. Go ahead and put that in the calculator and let's see what we get. And we also get a negative 39. Since they're both the same, our answer checks out, and we know that the c is negative 5. For example number 6, we still have some simplifying to do. I need to take this negative 7 and distribute it. And that gives 5 minus 7t minus 7. Nothing happened with this 5, it just drops down. Negative 7 times t became negative 17. And negative 7 times 1 is just negative 7. There was nothing to simplify on the right-hand side, so I just copy it down. And now I have similar terms to combine. I have 5 minus 7. So this gives me a negative 7t minus 2 equals a negative 10t plus 3. And now I have to choose. Do I want to add 7t or do I want to add 10t? Either one is fine. I happen to know that if I add 10 to both sides, I'll wind up with a positive 3. However, I want to give you at least one example where I do it the opposite way. Instead of adding 10, I'm going to add 7 because you know what, that was a smaller number. Again, this is just purely preference. Usually I would like to add the 10, but I'm choosing to do this other way just to show you that you can. This leaves me with a negative 2 equals, well, negative 10 plus 7 gives me a negative 3t. And this is why I normally don't, I would normally add 10 instead of adding 7, because now I have to deal with a negative t. It's okay, it's not going to fluster us, but I have run out of room. So I'm going to rewrite it. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. That gives me a negative 5 equals a negative 3t. And now, just divide everything by negative 3, and I get that t equals positive 5/3. Let's go ahead and check this one out. So 5 minus 7 times 5/3 plus 1 equals let me go ahead and show you how I put that in the calculator right here. And that gives me a negative 13.6 repeating. Now I'm going to do the other side. Negative 10 times 5/3 plus 3 is also a negative 13.6 repeating. Since these are both the same, it checks out. So, I could have added 10. I chose to add 7 instead. Wound up with a negative t. I was still able to solve it. We have just one more example. We're going to start off by distributing. But now we have to simplify both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute this 5 as well. And now I need to combine similar terms. 8 and 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So this would be 2k plus 13 equals 5k minus 5. Because a negative 15 plus 10 is a negative 5. Again, I could go ahead and choose to move the 2k or the 5k. I want to show you another one in case you happen to be a person who always likes to move to the left. I'm going to go ahead and subtract 5k on this one. 2k minus 5k makes a negative 3k plus 13 equals a negative 5. Again, normally I would have subtracted the 2k instead to give me a positive number, but we're working with negative. So I will subtract 13, and that will give me a negative 3k equals a negative 18. Well, I've run out of room, so I'm going to rewrite it. I only have one more step, and that's to divide by the negative 3. And I get that k equals a positive 6, because negative and negative make it positive. We will check one more time. 5 plus 2, parentheses 6 plus 4. Gives me 45. And now I do the other side. 5 parentheses 16 minus 3 plus 10 and that gave me a 75. So you'll notice that these didn't check out, and I need to look back and see why. Well, if I'm looking over here, k equals 6, and over here I have 6, but over here I put 16. Just a case of my bad handwriting getting the better of me. And so I probably typed 16 when I put these in the calculator. So I'm going to do it again, this time just using the 6. 5 plus 2 times 6 plus 4 That gave me 25. Obviously, that was the problem that I had. 5 parentheses 6 minus 3 plus 10. That equals 25. And now they check. So, again, if they're not checking, definitely you need to double check your work. Start by making sure that you actually wrote it down correctly, typed it in the calculator correctly, did all that. And then start from the top and start working through your problem to see where your mistake might have been. This assignment's going to take a little bit longer because it's a little more complex, but take your time, good luck, and have a good day.